this week, sorry, I'm skipping the pleasantries. I don't know
My
why.
voice is still croaky, guys.
Yeah, and I'm really sorry, guys. There's a little bit of coughing in this episode. I really tried to stifle it, so hopefully it doesn't detract from our guest this week. So we had a guest. We had Cyrus from the amazing company that is Fill and Needle, a manufacturing fashion brand based in Los Angeles. And Mim, Cyrus was great.
Yeah, he was so insightful and just had so much like knowledge, insight about the industry, opinions about what's going on. And just you can tell he's like a real fashion head, like a man who worked in the industry during the 90s, the early 2000s, started his business in like the 2010s, and just has like decades of knowledge and always a good response to our questions.
Yeah, always had a great response. Also, still seems very much like in love with the industry and the fact that it's ever changing. And we discuss a lot of that in this episode, that it's constantly changing, and a few theories on what might be the future of fashion and stuff. Yeah, he was great. And also, I think he said one of the best quotes of all time.
Oh, he did.
I'm sure it will be the quote of this episode. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. It was a real pleasure. We interrupt this broadcast to remind you, go follow us on Instagram, Style Over Substance Pod. Shoot us an email, styleoversubstancepeak@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter. We've got all the links on our Instagram. You know what to do. Well, hey Cyrus, thanks again so much for joining us. You started talking about it there, but could you kind of talk to us about how you came about Fill and Needle and why you wanted to create Fill and Needle?
Wonderful. Yes. Hello, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming.
Sure. I created Fill and Needle in 2000. At the end of 2014. So we basically opened our doors by 2015. And we've been manufacturing. It's kind of like a one-stop shop. So individuals or designers or brands come here with an idea in head. Sometimes a sketch, sometimes just an idea, sometimes the samples they bought from outside and they want to do adjustments to it. And they come and they tell us, okay, this is what we want to do. And from that, we take it over. We start creating a sample for them by doing the patterns, by doing the adjustments, a couple of fittings here and there, till they're satisfied with the outcome. And once they have that, they decide, quantities of production, grading, what kind of sizing they want to do. And we take care of their production as well. So that's been the what we have done in Fill and Needle here. This was kind of a new idea back then in Los Angeles. Los Angeles people were going to different places to do all these aspects. So I would say we and a couple of other companies like us started this concept. First I heard was like in 2013. So it's a new concept in city of Los Angeles. In Europe, I'm aware these kind of businesses existed for a long time, but in Los Angeles, kind of a new idea in the last decade.
So prior to starting Fill and Needle, what drew you into starting it? Because you were previously working in the fashion industry already. Is that correct?
Sure. I mean, I graduated from Paris, France. So once I finished S-Mode, it was in the 90s. And from there, I moved to, I worked in Paris for a little while. I moved to East Coast, US, New York, Boston. And I was there for around 2 years or so. And I moved to Los Angeles in early 2000. and I've been done since. So I've been in the industry in the city for over 20 years now.
Wow.
And altogether, if you want to talk all my entire lifespans of fashion industry, I'm getting close to 30 years.
Wow.
We can't retire at 30 years. Not the army. We're going to keep going for a couple of more decades.
Oh,
amazing. And so was it a gap in the market? Was it something that you realized that you needed that didn't yet exist? Because like you said, there's a few places like that in London, but they're few and far between. So when those places that exist are really special, that you can be in the city and get your samples made and things like that. It's quite an artisan thing for it to be in a city. Yeah.
It's well, yes, I saw the gap. You're completely right. I saw, people were going so many different places. And, my own position before this, where I was, the jobs I had prior to this thing, I was the technical director. So for a couple of companies before coming to, starting my own business. So I was, managing the entire development and production of the brands I was working for. So I knew that was the need in the industry. And I realized, the amount of money people pay to just go from point A to point B and, check on things, it's a lot. And Los Angeles is a very, very big city. So it's not like you can go to one neighborhood and go from building A to building B to building C and see everything. So each round you have to jump in your car, go to different locations. And the industry here was mainly in downtown Los Angeles, which is moving now a little bit farther from downtown in different areas. So you really need a car to go to all these places, check everything. And parking is really expensive too.
We hear about bad LA traffic. So yeah.
Exactly. So I thought, if we do this, it would be a lot easier for people to just come to one place and we manage the rest of it for them. And it worked. It's kind of like, a lot of people really appreciate that. And they don't go through the headache of going to all these different places. What people are usually surprised is our price is not really more expensive than if you were going individually to each of these sections. So, for example, what we charge to sew a sample is not really more than if you were going directly to a sample maker. Or if it's the price for a pattern, we are almost same price than if you're going to outside finding a freelance pattern maker. So the difference is like they save time and money to deal with us as one location.
Yeah.
And, the other part is also anything, coming out as people not being satisfied is under our management. So they don't need to go to say, hey, the final product is not exactly what I wanted. And having like 4 different people being involved and each of them pointing at each other. You can say the sample maker was not right. You can say the production manager was not right. You can say the sewing production was not right. You can say the pattern from the beginning was not right. And each of them always say it was the other guy's fault. Yeah. In this situation, we are all the same guy. So they don't need to deal with the whole idea of having to argue about the quality. They're usually very happy with what we do. We didn't really have them, complain about quality of things. If something is not exactly what they want, so we can always, rectify that. So those are the process to go to, in a location like ours.
Yeah. And because you're based in LA, and I've never been to LA, but, everything you hear about LA, it's incredibly creative place. And I imagine the way that your business is set up, you have a lot of maybe younger brands or people starting out. And is this like your company and what you have to offer like perfectly suited to those who are strapped for funds? And we talk a lot about on this podcast that making a successful brand can be incredibly expensive. Even those who are at the top of their game, have stores all around the world, can still go bankrupt. It's quite an expensive venture to have your own fashion brand. So what you offer, is it like perfect for those who are particularly younger and starting out? And is that your main kind of client base, or do you have others?
Well, that's a great question, honestly. It's like really on the time. What was in the beginning, what we did start in the beginning, where companies, brands, established brands were coming to us. As time goes by, we're getting more and more younger people coming, the startup people coming and starting their line. And I would say in the last 3 years or so, it happened before COVID, but COVID also helped it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a lot of younger people, 20s. I have like one of a very successful clients right now. She started with me when she was turning 20, like a month before she turned 20. Wow. And right now she's over $1 million company. So you get a lot of youngsters coming. They don't, and also a lot of them don't know much about fashion. Yeah. It's not like the background is fashion. It's not like they went to fashion school or anything like that. Absolutely not. They just come with concepts. They come with ideas. And they said, this is what I want to do. And, so we have to really sit down and understand what their needs are. And from that, create what they want. What we were doing before, I would say before 3 years ago, we had all kind of like minimums because, that's what's required in the industry. So you had to be able to produce X units to make sense, to be in the ballpark of the market and be able to have a set, wholesale price and try to make a little bit of profit. So therefore, you had to produce 100 units, 150 units, 200 units, depending, what kind of garment we were talking about. Today, people make small units, but they sell directly to the consumer. Mm-hmm. What I might mean by that, so the entire stores, representation, trade shows, all these things are, crossed over. So they don't have none of those fees. So they make their garments and they go directly online via Instagram or, influencers or however they find their own means. And they sell directly. So their cost of goods, they can pay more for it because the profit is really there. And so we decided to cater to them and take off the entire minimums. We don't cover minimums anymore. We don't talk minimums. I say, you know what, for example, you want to make this pair of pants? Fine. If you want to make a dozen units, so you're going to be paying almost double the price than if you are making 100 units. But let's say, because they're selling directly to the store, to the consumer, they still make good amount of money. They still can triple, quadruple their investment. Mm-hmm. So that's completely okay with them. And they need to they don't mind doing so, and that's what's working. And we're getting more and more clients like that.
Yeah,
I think that's definitely a world that we've seen taking off, is the kind of the small businesses that can do it via Instagram or just a website. And you don't have any of the store costs, anything like that. But also that sounds like a really exciting opportunity. So I'm someone who's done the full slog of a fashion design degree, but it's an exciting thing that some people can't afford to do degrees and all of that stuff, but that someone just could have like a creative mind and doesn't then need the technical pattern making knowledge. And that's something that you could offer as a really exciting opportunity that opens the possibility of fashion, I think, to more people. So that sounds like a really exciting kind of collaboration all around for you to kind of educate people, but also then have more like refreshing ideas from someone who's not clouded by like the rigidity of pattern making and what's possible.
I completely agree with you. And the other part I really understood, another reason I opened this business, because I realized in the last 20 years, once everything started going to China, people were not, pattern makers, designers, all these people, they were not really trying to create the garment anymore. Everything was done by making a tech pack and dictating what they want. Yeah. So I realized, okay, so if they can communicate this to overseas, to people who don't even speak the language, so we can do this here. directly here, it would be a lot faster and better communication. That was the original concept, and that's how I went through the companies. But now, as we're growing through everything and the COVID happened, we see is a lot more, smaller people, startups coming. Like years ago, the startups were like kids coming out of fashion school who had some money. They wanted to, start their own line instead of going working. So we had few people like that. But today is completely different. Today is like you have a little bit of that, but you have a lot of creative people, as you say, which they have ideas. They want to do graphics on their tees or their hoodies. That's usually the first idea.
Yeah,
that's usually the first idea. I want to make a graphic on my hoodies or graphic tees. So they come and they talk about that. They look around, and after that, they come back with different ideas. So now they want to do real clothing. And the other thing I have been seeing the last 3 years is a lot of redoing the garment. They go buy used garment from the army, from leftover denims, or the end of rolls from different designers, different places, and they come and they want to redo those things. And to tell you the truth, 3 years ago, I was like, I don't have time for this. This is too much, too much headache. What is this thing you're talking about? But, we kind of like started looking into it, and we saw, okay, there's an opportunity there. And we start doing it. Yeah. And it's really getting a good chunk of our business is redoing garments. And that's really, what is the trend is today. Everyone, the new generation is really concentrating on recycling. So that's a big part.
You touched on a point a few minutes ago, and you spoke about China. And when we reached out to you and I saw that you were based in LA, I thought, that sounds expensive. And do you think right now there's a genuine hunger to be buying US made garments and things that are made and produced and designed in their country, as opposed to, do you think people are getting tired of buying things made in China, for example? Do you think people are really keen to support, their homegrown talent?
I usually believe it's always a percentage of people who are doing that. Yes, I would say percentage of people is correct. What you're saying, completely that. But the law of the market is always the price, and I see, the imports from China or other countries over there, mainly China, is getting super expensive. But still, you have to look at it, what quality of fabric, garments we're talking. If you want to pay lower price garments, it's still cheaper to buy from there. So when you're going, in high quantities, it's still a lot less expensive to purchase from overseas. But when you're looking at, smaller brands, we are competing. We are competing and competing well, because, the transportation, everything is quite expensive to do it over there. So therefore we are competing here, but we're having another problem. I mean, it's not a problem because it's fair, but the price of manufacturing in Los Angeles has increased in the last 5 years. The minimum wage started at $10.25. Today is $15. So therefore the price of manufacturing also increased by 50%.
Yeah,
because that's really the situation. So on the other hand, you have this competition, and you have the price of the import, which is a lot more expensive. So you have different companies looking different places. For our situation in California, we are in the border of Mexico. So you have brands who I'm seeing they're looking to produce over there in Mexico.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you also, sorry. I wanted to ask you about the idea of sustainability, because you're quite a small manufacturer, and how does that play a role in you working with your design partners and manufacturing goods? And what's your view on the bigger topic within the fashion industry of sustainability?
The fashion sustainability right now, I mean, we are all trying. We, things started first by organic cotton. After that, it was like the swimsuits, which they were basically recycled fabric. Now, you have a bunch of people creating, buying old clothes and chopping them apart and redoing them. I have people who go and basically buy leftover denim by pounds, and like they buy like 200 pounds of denim and they bring them here. So we chop them apart, and after that we remake another pants or jacket or things like that. I have another brand who goes and buys things by postal services. The bags from postal services and, other things which they were selling in the armies. So all these things still around. They buy those again per pounds, and they bring it, and we remake garments out of those. You have people who buy sweatshirts, sweatpants, all kind of like joggers, and do the same thing. So you have a lot of things which people are restarting to do. They go and they find like leftover whatever. I found another company, another lady who came here actually not long ago, and this is a new thing we're trying to do, is quilt. The quilts from back in the day, like the baby's quilts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they're buying those, and they're trying to really find it all over the place. And so they use that for the portion of the garment, and that's what they're doing. So anything which was possible from before, scarves. Another one is scarves. Getting, anything which was you can find in flea market or anything else, they do it, they bring it. And now we have to, re-chop it and re-put it together. Is it easy? No.
Yeah.
Is it time consuming? Hell yes. It's very, very time consuming. And is the price right? No, it's super expensive. But it's a new idea. It's the ideology. People don't want to, go spend on new stuff to be created. So they want to use things and recycle them. Who am I to criticize it or go for it? But it's a new thing in the market, and we're enjoying it.
So how much of those who kind of approach you and say they want to work with you and create collections, how many of those do you think are like keen in doing the recycled fabrics thing, or is it kind of like the small minority, would you say?
Right now, I would say the young generation coming here, I would say 3/4 of them want to do that. Do they all do it? No. Once they realize the amount of work and money about it, they change their idea. Half of those people stick with it. Half of them, change portion of it. And also people have to understand, you can do that. You can mix and match it. What I suggest to people today is like, you know what? Let's take some stuff from recycled goods, and let's take a little bit of things from new things and merge them together. It can work. And, it's not, the garment is 100% recycled. Let's say it's 40%, 60%, 70%. Still better than zero. And we can have a better quality to do that way. Because sometimes for some portions of the garment, which has to be durable, it's very difficult to use old clothes because they rip apart. So these are suggestions to have, and real, deep conversation about every little detail of the garment, and decide what part is best to have it, recycled, what part is best to have it brand new. And, that's the decisions they have to make, because they want to be true to their consumers. So they don't want to say, is this and that, but it's really something to look into and educate the consumer.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. I think so many people think that now if you create a brand, it has to be sustainable, and it's like this buzzword. But actually, to be fully sustainable is a really difficult thing. but also, like you said, it's really expensive, and we're kind of not there yet with it being more affordable, and it's a difficult thing. And actually, like you said, just having a percentage of a garment as being recycled or whatever is an effort. Like every little bit helps. And I think you're right that you don't just want to buy a garment just because it's recycled, but it's going to fall apart. Like your clothes,
Exactly.
your clothes have to still fit a purpose. And like, yeah, you don't want there to just be a hole in it under the armpit or whatever, or in like the first week. I think that's such a good point. And other than like the sustainability buzzword of the fashion kind of industry's been moving towards, what else have you noticed that is happening recently, like in the fashion industry, that kind of is grabbing either old designers or new designers' attentions? What have you noticed going on?
That's a very, very big question.
Yes, not an easy question.
No, not an easy question. I mean, those are always been the trends in the industry. So each one sees differently. Always, the whole idea of retro is there. Always the whole idea of reconstruction. Right now, people doing reconstructed garments all the time. What I see really is like the functionality of the garment, and the exchange of sexes. I would say through the last century, even to 2010, women were wearing garments which they wanted to be free and look a little bit more masculine. But I think that trend is gone. So the tailored jacket, things like that, is less and less out there. People are wearing a lot of unisex things. I see a lot of people coming and asking for unisex garments. I always explain grading of those and sizing those things are not correct. Is not incorrect. Is not law about it. But as a woman who size medium is more or less like a guy who size extra small. So those are the measurements of the industry. So if you want to do such a thing, you need to always educate your consumers. So that's what I see, in that matter, how things going. Now you see a lot of, basically, I think the whole sexism is out of the window. And so garments are becoming that way, the way they're conversing is that way. It's a lot more comfortable. There's no more structure. So why is that? It could be two things. Because it's actually to produce is less expensive. So if you want to produce in fast pace, if you want to produce it not overseas, but in the Western society, which the price of workers are a lot more expensive. So the time to be able to put in a sewing way, to put a garment together when the garment is loose, not, structured. So it's less than an hour, is by minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. But when you go to constructed things, you're talking like, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours or more. So those are the differences we'll see. And I think because of the quality of fabrication we have out there too, so it's a lot more flexible. It's a lot more, the spandex idea kind of helped everything. People can just wear whatever and be comfortable. So those are the changes I see. But the other part right now, the biggest challenge I see between the younger generation, the old want that freedom, the old want that spandex inside of their garment. The old are against the elastic because that's is bad for environment.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation to have. Like which one do we want to do?
And that's going to be made worse, right, by the pandemic when we've all been in elasticated clothing for goodness knows how long.
Like I would say, in the last 2 months. I got this 3 times this conversation. People coming, they want a pair of pants. They don't want a zipper. They just want to be able to pull it up. And after that, they say, no, I don't want to put elastic over there because elastic is bad for environment. And I'm like, so how do you want that garment to hang around your hip? You know, like it has to hold on the waist, and it has to be bigger to go over your hip. So like this, you can wear it. So they always say, you know, can we put a string over there? Just pull it. Yeah, you can. But the lifetime of the pants going to be reduced from 2 years to 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, those are the challenges. These are the differences of the time. I hope somebody can find a way.
Yeah. Someone needs to invent an eco-friendly elastic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to patent that idea.
You should. Scarlett and I spoke a lot about during like lockdowns and whatnot. We said we envisioned what our wardrobe would look like once we were free in the world. And we said that we would dress more glamorous. We said that we would dress more colorful, you know, make more of an effort. Do you think this trend of being quite casual is going to continue for, like, let's say in the next 10 years? Do you think we're going to continue doing things like that? Or do you see designers now really coming up with other ideas? Or is there a trend or something that you think in the near future is going to be big within design?
Again, you're asking a very big question.
Yeah.
I'm going to elaborate it in a different way. I would say designers always followed the art in the human life. So, you know, before this whole idea of social media, you had establishment, you had editors, you had magazines, you had fashion houses, you had other places, you had trade shows which had to approve a new designer before they can go and showcase their work. Today, all these things are basically gone. So therefore, and that's not only in our industry. It's kind of the same thing in the movie industry, the same thing in the music industry. So all depend, like, you know, who is the next icon in other aspects of the art which comes out, and what kind of garments they want to be wearing, how they're going to, you know, showcase themselves. If it's coming, and it's been coming the last decade or so, from bottom up. So it's coming from bottom up. Bottom up is usually casual. It's not like, you know, glamorous. Glamorous was the high society who basically was trying to dictate, okay, this is what we do, and everybody else is following. So all depends, where is it coming from? And are we going to get tired of the casual wear? Certainly, I am personally tired of it, but it's finding that glamour in the casual wear, I would say. Like, who is the designer who's going to come up with that idea of, you know, it's glamorous, but it's super comfy? So that would be the biggest challenge to come up next. But to go back to what was glamorous before, all those dresses, jackets, shoulders, it would be difficult to go back to that.
Yeah, it's difficult because, like Mim said, that was like our fantasy, and like, even though we're making our way out of this pandemic, touch wood, that's still not what I'm reaching for. Like, day to day, I'm still like comfy, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I could wear that, but I could wear something more comfortable. And like, I think it's that thing of, we're just not used to it. So you're right, there needs to be kind of almost like an in-between of having a bit more of a glamour for just comfortable clothing. And maybe that's our gateway back into full glam.
You know, and you look at it, Met Gala like this year, it was quite interesting. The way everything was quite interesting. But, you know, those are the ways you're going to see what's going to happen in the future. And you can see even big designers, they are relaxing. They're not putting all that effort like from before. I wonder what's going to happen to haute couture or, you know, things like that.
I think it's really interesting what you said about the Met Gala. And well, there's going to be a second part to that theme anyway. But I feel like red carpets almost don't have that same importance that they used to. I think that might be social media, that we get so much fashion. We are inspired now not only by celebrities but influencers, or just like a stylish girl we've somehow found online. And I feel like red carpets almost just don't hold that kind of like, oh my god, I want to be them.
It's not like, exclusive, is it, in that sense?
And also I think we can now look up to people who maybe are slightly more attainable. And I'm a huge lover of haute couture. Like, that's the reason I fell in love with fashion. And I hope that there's always a place for it, selfishly, but it feels less and less relevant sometimes, which is such a shame. Do you kind of see that? I know you mentioned you don't know what happened to haute couture. How do you sort of see that?
I see that. And I see that in other industry too. I see that in the movie industry. Because I'm very close to that by, my wife, who's in the movie industry and everything. And I sit in those kind of meetings all the time. Even the movies right now is a lot more TV shows than the movies. Is a lot more,
instant streaming service rather than cinema.
Exactly. So all this thing, like trying to put, how can I say, all this focus in one thing, and would be like, the haute couture or, those kind of like red carpets, is kind of like, is cooling down. There's a lot more smaller things coming up. Influencers are important today. The big part of what's going on. Are they qualified? You can argue. Because they, before an editor had to work really, get the job, have a decade of doing things, and after that get the stamp of approval of some magazine to say, okay, so and so is good enough to be writing this article. Today, whoever who has some kind of followers, can be doing that. Are they qualified? Not by our industry, but that's what the society is today. I always say I don't fight the nature. But that's really what it is. We don't know, because, before you had to go through the steps to be where you were. And after that, you would dictate everything. And that was reducing the chance of a lot of newcomers. If you were not liked by the first couple of people, if you didn't know the right people, if you didn't have the right amount of money to go spend right places, you couldn't get to the game. Today, all these things are gone. That's the beauty of it. On the other hand, before, you had people who were established, who had some knowledge, who would put a stamp of approval under what you were doing. Today, you don't have that neither. So it's kind of like a open field, It doesn't mean the best is going to be the winner. It's just, we're all running.
Do you have designers who approach you and fill a needle and say, I have a vision to make something that isn't everyday wear. I want to try and, obviously not haute couture, but evening wear, or something that's more conceptual, that's a bit more grander. Do you ever have designers or brand owners approach you and have that sort of vision?
We have a couple of clients like that. But, again, this is Los Angeles. We're not really, Los Angeles is not the brands for evening wear. Los Angeles is more artsy or casual. So it's those two. Before, I would say, like in early 2000 here, it was only denim and T-shirts and joggers and hoodies and things like that. Things had changed. And now Los Angeles is a big major city in the planet. It's a big base. Is really what is the first stop between East and West. Everything going from Asia to here, or from here to Asia. So this is the first place. It's no longer like New York, which was important because was the first spot to go to Europe and come back. So today, with the rise of Asia, Los Angeles is a big powerhouse. So therefore, the entire art scene has changed in the last 20 years. Today, we see this in every aspect of art, between painters and, fashion houses and other things. You even have designers coming here and staying and just being inspired. So yeah, it's a complete different scene. But do I have really big, those kind of like evening dresses? I wouldn't say so. I would say more like cocktail dresses. I have those kind of clients coming and doing it. They're, I would say still, like, if you want to go for those kind of like big evening dresses, the people, the few brands who are based in LA, they do them overseas. They don't really do them here yet. And that's the part, it's just becoming expensive. And we don't have, I would say we don't have that hand needles in LA, like having people who are really being able to do the hand stitches the way it requires for an evening dress. Decorative hand stitches. I would say I don't know that, much people who be able to do that.
Yeah.
But, sewing something by hand, like a hem by hand or things like that. Yes, that we have that. But what we know, like in Europe, which is like really decorative hand stitches, or what's going on in India or China regarding that, we don't really have that in LA.
Yeah.
So we kind of stop at the cocktail dresses. We do have, a couple of clients who do super expensive fabrications from Europe. They buy them, they bring them here. We do dresses like that, but it's not like with inside work, bonings and things like that. We do a couple of bustiers here and there. I have denim bustiers. Oh God, doing that like crazy.
I can imagine that, definitely.
Yeah. But those kind of.
Yeah. Scarlett, I'm thinking that we should do a few of our quickfire questions as well.
Okay, cool. Let me get
at the end of our guest interviews, we like to shoot a few quickfire questions and get a sense of your either or preferences.
Okay.
What is your favorite item to manufacture?
I love jackets.
Yeah.
But I do the least amount.
Okay. It's too hot in LA.
I don't know. That's not what the people are looking for. I love jackets. I love to wear jackets. I love to make jackets. But it's the item which is being requested the least.
Okay, that's interesting.
Besides Fill a Needle, what's your favorite brand and design aesthetic that you appreciate the most?
My life story, I would say I always was a huge fan of Jean-Paul Gaultier. He is, I think what's going on today is what he did in the 80s and 90s. He was 20, 30 years ahead of himself. He was...
Bustiers.
Yeah, he was master of that. He was master of that. I mean, he still is. Sorry to say was and is master of that. Yes.
Amazing.
That would be number one.
What are you most excited about for what's coming up next for Fill a Needle?
The excitement is in the youngsters. I feel youthful again, to be honest, because now in a daily basis, I hang out with like 20-year-old kids. And it's very interesting to see the way they look at life, the way they look at the society, the way things are moving. I enjoy my job because I see different kind of people all the time, and it's a huge range of individuals coming here. And they have nothing to do with each other, but it's very lovely to sit down and talk to these people and see what their vision is and what they're trying to do. And it changes every 6 months to 9 months. It really changes. It's like a wave of people coming for the exact same idea. but they have nothing to do with each other. But they're asking the same question. They want the same thing.
Amazing.
Out of the list of different services that Fill and Needle provide, what's your favorite stage of the manufacturing process?
Creating the sample. Once the first time the garment comes out, once the first concept idea is actually being showcased. Somebody showed up with an idea in their head, and now we basically made that idea to a garment, and here it is presented to them. Their face is beautiful.
Oh, that's great.
I love that.
And following a similar vein, what was it that made you fall in love with fashion and still enjoy working in fashion?
I would say, I don't know. I learned how to tie my tie before I learned how to tie my shoes.
Wow.
As a kid.
That's a good That's a good line.
That needs to go on a t-shirt.
I love it.
That's fantastic. I love that.
It's a childhood thing, I think this kind of jobs is kind of like what you fall in love as a child. And nobody, your parents influence you. It's not like, my mom and dad both were, were dressed up nicely. They were aware of grooming and everything. So, but they never told me, hey, this is what you need to be doing. We never had that conversation. When I told them the first time, they're both very quiet.
Amazing.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast. I think it was lovely to meet you and just hear about your experience, what you're doing, and your view on all aspects of the industry. Thank you so much.
I appreciate to give me the opportunity. I enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, have a great rest of your day. And this was a really enjoyable chat.
So that was our interview with Cyrus from Fill and Needle. We really hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did, chatting and recording it with him. Let us know what you thought about it, your thoughts, our questions, his responses. And big thank you to the man himself who agreed to kind of sit down with us and have a transatlantic chat about fashion and haute couture and, the iconic designers that he has an appreciation for. So thank you so much for attending, and thanks to all you guys for listening to our episode. Let us know what other types of interviews you'd like us to conduct. We're always open for ideas. Remember to fill out our poll. We always like to have a poll going each week. And
what should it be this week?
Oh yeah,
I feel like maybe on the topic of, we talked about recycled clothing. Would you does a garment have to be 100% recycled, or to be kind of in the vein of that maybe?
Are you a diehard net zero fashion consumer? Something to that effect. How much does it influence your purchases?
Something like that. We'll see what we put out. Who knows?
We don't even know yet.
It's a thrill.
Thanks again, guys. I've been Mim.
And I've been Croaky Scarlett.
Ciao, Bellas. Bye.
Bye.